Hi, I'm Brandy. Welcome to Careers Unchecked. This is the podcast for high achieving women who are doing well on paper, but something just doesn't feel right. Maybe you got the promotion and it feels heavier than you expected. Maybe your role keeps expanding, but your compensation just isn't. Maybe you're exhausted in a way that sleep just won't fix. Or maybe you had a quiet moment where you thought, is this actually what I want? I'm a career coach and a first-generation professional. I spent over a decade in corporate leadership, and at one point I applied to more than 250 jobs trying to figure out what work actually felt like mine. I've hired teams, built systems, burned out a few times, pivoted quietly, and rebuilt. What I've learned from my own story and from coaching hundreds of women is this: you don't need more noise. You need support, you need clarity, and you need a plan that actually fits your life. Around here, we reduce the mental load, we untangle burnout and imposter syndrome, and we build strategy that feels aligned, not performative. And we move forward in a way that's both grounded and strategic. You'll leave with practical tools, real frameworks, and perspective you can use right away, so you can stop overthinking and start making moves that feel authentic. This is Careers Unchecked. Let's get into it. I want to start with a conversation I had a few weeks ago because I think it's going to land for more of you than you expect. Okay, I was talking to a client who came in feeling stuck. She kept using the word stagnant, like something in her career had just slowed down, and she couldn't quite figure out why. So I had her unpack her story. I want to know all about your career trajectory. And two things became very clear very quickly. Number one, she'd been identified early on as a leader. She was someone people trusted, someone who got tapped for more responsibility, someone who is being rewarded for her potential. And two, boy, does she have a very natural ability to develop people and has these like really true, strong leadership instincts, the kind you can't really teach. So on paper, this is someone who should be growing, moving forward, building momentum, but that's not what was happening. A few years ago, she stepped into a management role on her team, replacing someone who'd been in that position for years. And here's where it got complicated. That previous manager, incredible at the work they do, fantastic individual contributor, but was not great at leading people. And this person had recently chosen to step down into a part-time role. They are not the same. So my client stepped in. She's trying to lead the team, trying to create structure, trying to support all the people on the team. But the previous manager was still on the team, still influencing things, still shaping the environment. And what started to build was frustration, tension, and honestly, big resentment. It made leading effectively for her so hard. So hard that about 6 months later, she went to her boss and stepped down because she genuinely believed that was what was best for all the people on the team. And I want you to hear that part clearly. She stepped down, not because she couldn't do the job, but because the environment wasn't set up for her to succeed. And when she told me this, I immediately felt this wave of anger wash over me. Not at her, right? But at how common this is, because what this really comes down to is a misunderstanding that shows up everywhere in every workplace. Being great at the work does not make someone a great manager. And when organizations don't understand that, they create dynamics like this, where the person who is skilled and should actually be leading ends up stepping back. Now, here's the part that really matters. It's a year later at this point. The team starts expanding, and suddenly it's very clear they need her. She steps back into the leadership role, and the previous manager was moved over to now be a peer with no direct reports. And everything starts to click and make more sense. And that's what I want to talk about today, because there's a very specific experience that comes with being managed by someone who has less experience than you. And it doesn't always look the way you'd expect from either side. Sometimes it's obvious. You can see the gap. You'd make different decisions. Maybe you understand things at a deeper level. But a lot of the time, it's much more subtle. What I hear clients say in these situations is something to the effect of this: I feel like I have to play small. I feel like I'm pushing the boundary of what's socially acceptable if I speak up and step into my true leadership. And over time, it takes a big toll. You're going to start second guessing yourself, not because you've lost your ability, but because the environment is not reinforcing you. And here's the part that just gets to me. The very thing that got you promoted in the first place, your instincts, your perspective, your ability to see things differently, is the exact thing I see people time and time again stop using. because it's not landing or not being received well or creating friction, however you want to call it. So you adjust, you hold back, you edit yourself, and slowly you start to shrink. And that's the erosion. And it's not because you're wrong. It's because you're in a system that is not built to hold your level of thinking. When your expertise and the authority structure above you don't match, there's a tension there. And over time, most people don't want to challenge the structure. They start to question themselves instead. And this is where I think things get really dangerous, because now you're not just navigating a tough dynamic, you're losing trust in your own judgment and your own voice. So what do you actually do with this if you're in this situation? And I want to look at this from both sides, because these dynamics don't just impact the person being managed, they also impact the person who is managing. Remember that. So the first one I want to look at is how we can manage this relationship differently. First, both of you need to shift how you see the relationship. If you're being managed by someone with less experience, instead of seeing them as the authority on your work, I want you to start seeing them as a partner in your growth. That means you got to get curious. What do you see in me? Where do you want me to grow? How can I support the team at a higher level? You're not challenging them. You're inviting them into your development as a partner. And if you're the one managing someone with more experience, similar shift here. You don't have to pretend you know everything. In fact, that's actually where things start to break down. Your role is to create clarity, remove obstacles, and make space for their expertise to be used. They're a wealth of knowledge. You want that on your team. So instead of directing everything, you can ask them, where do you want to lead? What are you seeing that I might be missing? How can I support you at your level? The goal on both sides is to move from hierarchy to partnership as you navigate this kind of rough, rocky transition. Number 2, I want you both to expand where confidence comes from. If you're the one being managed, you can't rely solely on your manager to value your work in this situation. You're going to need other mirrors. I want you to build relationships with peers, maybe other leaders in the organization, mentors, people in adjacent teams, because your value should not be determined by one person's ability to see it. And if you've been replaced in a management role, there's a lot that goes into that. So getting outside perspective is good. And if you're the manager, you also need to think about where your confidence is coming from, because this dynamic creates pressure to prove that you deserve this role. And when that pressure shows up, it can lead to overcompensating, overdirecting, or honestly just shutting people down or shutting yourself down. So I want you to anchor yourself in what you do, your ability to lead, to connect, to create direction, and surround yourself with people who are stronger than you in certain areas. Yes, you heard that right. That is not a weakness. That's strong leadership and honestly self-awareness. And part of your role is making sure your team's expertise is visible beyond you. You do not have to be the expert, but you do have to create access for them to share their expertise. And this is the part I really emphasize with all of my clients. Just because someone isn't a strong people manager does not mean you're limited by them. A lot of these individuals are really great individual contributors. And when you really get talking to them, they're not motivated by people leadership. So stop trying to force it, organizations. We want to identify your areas of expertise and find ways to use them. If you're a great individual contributor, you do not have to shrink to fit the structure. You can expand in that identity. Okay, number 3. We need to all be honest about the cost. And I need you to be honest with yourself in this process. If you're the one being managed, if this dynamic is living rent-free in your head, it's impacting how you show up every day, it's clouding your thinking, your home life, it's not workable, that's okay. And if you're the manager, you got to also ask the parallel question. Am I helping my team grow, or am I quietly holding them back? Are people expanding under my leadership, or are they shrinking to fit what I can hold? Are they bringing their full self and full thinking capacity before they speak to work? Because that answer matters, and it's not always easy to see from the inside. So it might look like asking for feedback, creating a space for an honest conversation, or even bringing in additional support or mentorship to give you some insights. I want you to know that I say all of this with a lot of care because this is a loaded topic. Some of these situations are temporary, right? It might be a new manager for a little while, a transition, a learning curve, but others can quietly chip away at you over time. And that cost matters and it compounds. So please know, this isn't about whether someone has more or less experience. It's about whether the person above you is making space for your career to grow. Because the right leader, even with less experience, will create that space. The wrong dynamic, it's going to slowly shrink you. And if you're feeling that right now, I really do want you to trust that signal, not run from it, not overanalyze it, but listen to it. And if this episode is sitting with you and you feel like, hey, I need to talk to somebody about this dynamic I'm challenged with, I want you to head to talentcareercoaching.com and get support. That's exactly the kind of work I do on a daily basis. I'll see you next week. Thanks for being here on this episode of Careers Unchecked. If something from today is sitting with you and a good next step feels like taking our burnout quiz, I want you to head over to talentcareercoaching.com. This quiz is free, it's short, and it's designed to help you figure out what you're feeling is burnout, or maybe it's misalignment and something about your work is no longer a fit. Those aren't always the same thing, and it really does matter which one it is so that you can go deeper and figure out what is actually happening. Just so you know, everything else lives there too. Blog posts, past episodes, free resources, and then obviously how to book a call or work with me if that makes sense for you too. All of it is there. In the meantime, I'll see you next week.